Hello, and welcome to Sleep Flow Studio. Tonight we're going to take a slow journey through time, back to the world of medieval castles, where stone walls were cold, fires were faint, and people slept long winter nights. You can make yourself comfortable now. Let your body sink into your blankets, and your mind drift quietly, like snow falling on castle rooftops. Tonight we'll explore how people of long ago found warmth, comfort, and sleep, without modern comforts, without heaters, without electricity. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let us walk softly through the quiet halls of history. Now our journey through medieval nights comes to an end. The castles are silent, the fires are low, and the snow outside drifts gently across the frozen courtyards. You've walked the halls, felt the blankets, heard the quiet breaths of the past, and now it's your turn to drift into sleep. Let the calm of these ancient nights wrap around you. Let the weight of the blankets, the rhythm of your breath, and the quiet of history carry you. Sleep well and dream softly, as people did 1,000 years ago, beneath the same pale moon. You can close your eyes now, and imagine yourself walking through the quiet corridors of a medieval castle. The air is heavy with the scent of stone and smoke. The faint echo of footsteps fades behind you. Outside, winter presses against the walls. The wind sighs through the narrow windows, carrying the soft whisper of snow. Inside, the torches burn low. The light flickers gently, golden against gray stone. It's night in the 13th century, and though this castle stands proud and strong, it is far from warm. The thick walls, built to keep enemies out, keep the cold in as well. They breathe chill into the air, into the floors, even into the heavy wooden doors that groan softly when the wind moves them. You can almost feel the cold on your skin now, that slow, creeping chill that slides down from the walls and settles in the corners of the room. But people lived here. They laughed, feasted, dreamed, and somehow they slept. Without heaters, without electricity, without soft duvets or thermal pajamas. So how did they manage it? How did they sleep through the long, icy nights of a medieval winter without freezing to death? First, imagine the bedroom of a noble lord or lady. It was called a solarian, the warmest room in the castle. Usually upstairs, where sunlight could reach during the day. The walls were lined with tapestries, not just for decoration, but for insulation. Each heavy cloth hung like a blanket over the stone, keeping the draft from slipping through. At the center of the room stood the great bed. It was high, sometimes so high you needed steps to climb in. The frame was made of oak or walnut, carved and polished. The mattress, stuffed with straw, feathers or wool, was thick but lumpy, and covered with layers of linen sheets and fur blankets. Above, a canopy, a kind of tent made of fabric, hung to trap the rising warmth from the sleepers' bodies. The curtains could be drawn tight, sealing them in like a cocoon. You can imagine them there. The lord and lady, wrapped in furs and wool, the bed curtains closed around them, breathing softly in the dim glow of a dying fire. The air beyond the curtains is cold. You could see your breath if you peeked out. But inside, beneath the layers, it's warm enough to drift into sleep. But not everyone had such comforts. The servants, the guards, the cooks, the children, they slept elsewhere. In drafty chambers, in shared rooms, sometimes even near the kitchens where the hearth was warmest. They used what they had: old cloaks, straw pallets, rough wool blankets. They would sleep close together, sharing body heat, whispering stories until the cold gave way to drowsiness. And in the great hall, the heart of the castle, travelers, soldiers, or servants might spread their cloaks on the floor. Near the central fire pit, the smell of smoke and roasted meat still hung in the air. The embers glowed faintly, crackling now and then, and the fire's warmth spread unevenly through the vast room. Closer to the flames, it was almost too hot. Farther away, the cold returned quickly, but still, it was better than sleeping outside. You might imagine, too, the silence of the castle at night. Only the distant creak of wood, the sigh of wind through an arrow slit, the occasional hoot of an owl, or the soft footsteps of a guard on patrol. There were no clocks, no hum of machines, no electric buzz, just darkness and the slow rhythm of breathing. People went to bed early, when the fire dimmed and candles burned low. The night was long, sometimes stretching 12 or 14 hours in winter. They didn't sleep straight through as we do now. Instead, they had two sleeps, the first sleep and the second sleep. After a few hours of rest, they would wake briefly in the middle of the night. Some would pray or talk quietly, or stir the fire back to life before lying down again. The castle would glow faintly, fires being stoked here and there, soft murmurs rising and fading again into silence. And yet they survived, night after night, through winters harsher than we can imagine. They learned small tricks, to warm bricks by the fire and slip them beneath their blankets, to hang curtains thickly around their beds, to wear nightcaps and woolen socks, and to sleep close to others when the cold was most cruel. Even kings and queens wrapped in furs and luxury still felt the bite of the cold through the stone walls of their mighty castles. But in that stillness, with firelight dancing on the ceiling, and the muffled wind sighing beyond the battlements, they found sleep. As you imagine it now, the firelight fading, the castle settling into slumber, you can feel the weight of the blankets, the slow warmth building beneath them. The world outside disappears into snow and silence, and in that deep quiet centuries away from today, you can almost rest beside them, safe, warm, drifting off into your own first sleep. You can let yourself sink a little deeper now. Feel the quiet stillness that lives inside these ancient walls. The night is long and the cold is patient. Outside, snow drifts lazily across the courtyard. The moon glows faintly on the frozen roofs, and the wind whispers through cracks and corners like a restless ghost. Now we move away from the grand solar of the Lord and Lady, down stone staircases that twist like roots through the heart of the castle. We come to the lower chambers, darker, rougher, closer to the ground where the chill is sharpest. Here the servants rest, men who tended the stables, women who baked and washed, children who ran errands through the echoing halls. Their beds are simple pallets of straw, laid on wooden frames or even directly on the floor. The straw is dry when fresh, soft enough to cushion the bones, but over time it flattens and rustles with the faint scent of dust and earth. Sometimes they covered it with old cloth, coarse linen or sheep wool, whatever they could find to keep the cold from creeping up from below. A few rough blankets, perhaps woven by hand, lay over them, and if they were lucky, an old cloak or fur was pulled on top. They slept in their clothes, tunics, hose, even shoes sometimes, because undressing meant inviting the chill to sink into their skin. Their breath hung in the air like mist, and in the deep dark you could hear the soft rustle of blankets, a cough here, a quiet murmur there, until even those sounds dissolved into the hush of sleep. Farther down, beneath the kitchens, were the cellars. Sometimes, a servant would slip down there to sleep near the warmth of the fires above. The kitchen was the heart of warmth in a castle. Its great hearth burned day and night, roasting meat, boiling stews, baking bread. The walls there stayed warm long after the fires died, and in the stillness of the night, the scent of smoke and baked bread mixed with the deep comfort of the earth below. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it. The faint pop of cooling embers, the sigh of settling wood, the gentle rhythm of slow breathing as sleep settles in. Beyond the castle walls, life was simpler and harsher still. Peasants and villagers who worked the fields didn't have stone walls at all. Their homes were made of timber and thatch, their floors of dirt packed hard by footsteps and time. In the center stood the hearth, open, smoky, the only true source of warmth. Families gathered close to it when night fell, sharing the heat, the glow, and the stories that softened the edge of winter. They slept together all in one room, parents, children, even animals. The cow or goat wasn't just livestock. It was living warmth. Its breath and body heat helped keep the chill away. You can picture it now, the dim light of a dying fire, a low murmur of voices fading to silence, and the gentle breathing of both people and beasts, filling the air like a quiet song of survival. It wasn't luxury, but it was enough. The body learns to rest even in the cold. It curls into itself, conserving warmth, and the mind drifts into a softer rhythm. The rhythm of life that has no rush, no clock, no screen to glow in the dark. Night came early and the world went still. The villagers might wake once in the middle of the night, to add wood to the fire, to whisper a prayer, to check on the animals. Then they would settle again, pulling the rough blankets tight, drifting into their second sleep while the frost thickened on the window. And far away, in the quiet corners of monastic life, another world of sleep existed. The monks in their abbeys and monasteries. They lived by the rhythm of bells, and even their rest was ruled by devotion. Their dormitories were long, cold halls lined with simple wooden beds. No curtains, no fires, only discipline and faith. They slept in their robes, their heads covered with hoods, their hands folded. When the night bell rang, they rose for prayers and matins, the midnight office. Then they would return to their beds for a brief second sleep before dawn. The stone walls of those places could be colder than death itself, and yet they bore it in silence, believing that earthly discomfort drew them closer to heaven. You can imagine them now, a line of dim figures walking through the candle-lit hall, the sound of sandals on stone, the low chant echoing like wind in a cave. Then the silence again, the sleep of men who surrendered warmth for faith. In every corner of medieval life, sleep was a fragile balance, between warmth and cold, between comfort and survival. And yet every night across castle and village, abbey and hall, the same moon shone through narrow windows. The same stars glimmered faintly above snow-covered roofs. And under those stars, in the deep, still heart of winter, people closed their eyes, trusted their fires, their blankets, and each other, and slept. Now you can let that image settle in your mind, the soft glow of embers, the sigh of the wind against the walls, the quiet, timeless rhythm of sleep that connects you, here, now, to those who lived and dreamed 1,000 years ago. Take another deep breath, and picture the castle again. The fires are low, the corridors are empty, and the air feels soft, almost weightless in its quiet. The world outside is frozen, but here, in the faint warmth of a few glowing embers, sleep is gathering like mist around every corner. Before the people of the castle closed their eyes, there were rituals, small familiar actions, that turned cold stone chambers into something human, something almost warm. In noble chambers, servants would come before bedtime. They laid down fresh sheets and coarse by our standards, but smooth and clean compared to most lives of the time. They shook out the furs and blankets, and they warmed bricks or stones by the fire, wrapping them in cloth before tucking them at the foot of the bed. Those hot stones would lose their heat slowly, offering hours of comfort in a night of cold. The lord or lady might sit by the fire for a while, reading by candlelight or speaking softly with a companion. Sometimes a minstrel's song would drift faintly from the great hall below, and when at last the room fell quiet, they would undress, slipping out of heavy garments and into long linen nightshirts, simple in shape, but thick enough to hold warmth. You can imagine the sound of fabric rustling, the flicker of the firelight dancing across their faces, and then the slow creak of the bed as they climb in. The curtains close, the room darkens, and the only light now is from the embers, a deep orange glow that fades and returns, like a heartbeat. These canopied beds were more than furniture. They were fortresses within fortresses, small enclosed sanctuaries against the endless cold. Heavy curtains made from wool or velvet hung on all sides, trapping every breath of warmth inside. Sometimes the space beneath the bed was filled with chests or cloth, the weight of the night pressing down but gently, as though it's asking you to rest. And as you imagine those medieval dreamers, their quiet breath and slow heartbeat, you might feel a little closer to them, not in their cold but in their calm, because the need to rest, to drift, to let go of the day, is the same now as it was then. The walls change, the centuries pass, but sleep remains. The castle is almost silent now. Only a few embers glow in the hearth, each one a tiny sun holding on against the dark. You can imagine the air cool, clean, still. The kind of stillness that feels heavy yet peaceful, as if even the stones are asleep. Outside, the world is deep in snow. The moonlight falls across the white ground like silver dust. You might hear the faint crack of ice shifting on the moat, or the call of a night bird far away. But mostly there is nothing, only quiet. Inside, the people dream. Dreams were important in the Middle Ages. They believed that sleep was not just rest, but a door, a space between the mortal world and the divine. Priests wrote about messages sent by God in sleep. Common folk whispered about omens and visions. If you dreamed of fire, it could mean warmth and life. If you dreamed of water, perhaps change was coming. And in those long winter nights, with the wind whispering through cracks in the wall, it was easy to believe that dreams carried truth. The border between waking and sleeping felt thin, like a veil that moved when the wind passed through it. The rhythm of life in those centuries followed the seasons. In summer, the days were long and bright. In winter, the dark stretched endlessly. Sleep was not stolen by schedules or screens. It came when the sun disappeared, and it lingered until dawn slowly returned. People often woke in the middle of the night. Historians call it segmented sleep. There was the first sleep, deep, heavy, silent, and then a period of wakefulness. In that time between sleeps, people prayed, spoke softly, tended the fire, or simply lay awake and thought. Then, as naturally as the tide, the second sleep arrived, and they sank back into it without effort. You can imagine that moment. The faint orange of rekindled embers, the whisper of someone shifting beneath furs, and then silence again, a shared stillness, as if the whole castle breathed in unison. Sometimes dreams told stories of comfort, a feast with friends long gone, a meadow in spring, though snow lay outside, a childhood home. Even in a cold stone room, the mind could wander to warmth, and perhaps that was the truest survival skill of all. The imagination. When blankets and fires were not enough, people closed their eyes and dreamed themselves warm. They remembered sunlight on fields, the hum of bees, the smell of fresh bread. In their dreams, the world was kind again. There was beauty in their darkness. To lie in a room with no light but the fire's breath. To hear the sigh of the wind and know you were safe inside. To feel the heavy weight of blankets and the slow, steady rhythm of your own heartbeat. Sleep was a surrender, and they understood it deeply. They gave themselves to it each night, trusting that morning would come. And when morning did arrive, gray light slipping through shutters, a servant stirring the fire, a rooster's cry in the courtyard, it felt like rebirth. The world thawed little by little. The castle woke. In the quiet of those mornings, steam rose from the first pot of porridge, and cold hands reached for warmth. Life began again, simple and unhurried. The nights had been long, but they had survived them, with stone walls, with wool and fire, and with each other. For all the cold, for all the hardship, they had found ways to rest, not because their world was easy, but because rest was sacred. It was the pause between labors, the soft breath between days. And now, as you listen, You might feel that same ancient calm settling over you. The centuries fade. The castle, the fire, the snow, they all dissolve into stillness. Only warmth remains. Only the rhythm of your breath. You are safe inside your own walls. You are wrapped in your own layers of softness. And the night, once cold and distant, is now gentle, patient, kind. So let it hold you. Let the weight of time fall away. Close your eyes and drift the way they did 1,000 winters ago, beneath the same moon, toward the same quiet dream.